Hello everyone and welcome to my channel, Utsuki. So once I uploaded that video showing my attribute and effect system, I tried to polish it a little bit more, adding some functions, some signals that I think it would make our lives better. Okay, I didn't fix any bug. Actually, I fixed some typos that I made, but the structure that I showed you in the last video, you can totally use it and go for it. Everything that I made here is just to make our lives even more easy to use it. Okay, so in the other video, I showed from the most external to most internal, but in this video, I will make it the opposite because the changes that I made in the external part basically use those who are internal. So I think the order it's better. I just made a very simple field test in order to show you how can you use this to apply the effect or to use for the attributes, okay? Very simple example, showcase. So here in the on status effect, I added on notify signal and on update signal, and I set the parameters from every single signal with the effect. So every single signal except from on notify that you can add as well will send the effect itself. Okay, so here in the notification, I check if self notify, because if you try to emit a notification, send a notification to all classes, for example, and from something that you just deleted, it will throw an exception. Okay, so it's better to check if this exists. So if it does, it will emit the notification. Remember, this notification, it's useful for that type of triggered event or effect, such as upon get hit, heal certain amounts of health, or upon get fire, like upon being set fire, do another thing. This type of things, okay? As you can see here on the update, run out, before apply, after apply, on max stacks, on add stacks, on max stacks, I am passing now emitting, passing the parameter self. Okay, now for the attributes. As you can see, I added the on notify and update as well. I added every single parameter it will need for everything except on notify. I added the attribute, so to pass itself, and as you can see, I added this signal update. And not only this, here as you can see, I also do the same thing about the notification, and in here in the I add the update. Okay, this update part, it's totally option. You do not need this. The signal, I recommend you to use it, but the method that will be the one that I will call on physics update, okay, to match the current frame rate from the game. It's just up to you. What this does, for example, if I have something that I need to update, I have to live update, such as I think that can be millisecond precise, accurate. I will need to use this update. If not, you can call this on update whenever whichever function change the value of the parameter. Okay, so you can use add in the on increase, on decrease, on replace, in the others methods and functions outside of this class to update, to make it happen. But if you need something that needs to be updated constantly and very precisely, then I recommend you to add this on update. And for everything else, as you can see on the mid, I add self in the end. But here in the status attribute, I committed a very bizarre error. I think I said correctly, but I didn't write correctly. On methods get final base and get final value, I said that if the value are int or float, should use the formula, else would return. And for some reason, I just check if it is int or float, and I would return, not the opposite. So what I changed? First, I added not. So instead of is, it's is not, and I added an and instead of or. Okay. So if it is int or float, it should go. Else, it should return the initial value. You might want to use these to make other formulas as well. It's totally up to you. You have something that enable and another thing that disable and so on, and you want to check this expression. We can keep with this. You just remove this if you want. Okay, remember that I said in the video that you could create static functions to return you the effects or the attributes in order if you want to manipulate it. I also said that you could create functions to create the attributes and effects that you would use most. Okay, and I did this. But before we start here I created a function called calling effect, and in the attribute I also created call in attribute. Okay, this has as parameter attribute string, method name string, parameters an array, and passive or not. That's just because I have the difference between active and passive list. Okay, so this basically assigned the list correctly. So I assigned the passive effects if passive is true, else it will pass the active effect. This if else inline is the same thing for the ternary. Okay, the ternary option that you do something like condition question mark true, else false, something like this. On Godot is something like this: true if condition, else false. Okay, this is how to do ternary on Godot, and I did this. Okay, so I assign the list here, and if the list does not have the attributes, the effect, return. Then I check if that effect have the same set method. If does not return, then I create a callable using callable.create, passing the class that has this method, the name of the method, and using bind v. This bind v is basically links the parameters you want to use in a callable. By default, the values come after a certain call. So, for example, if you want to have a method that have, for example, 3 attributes, 3 parameters, you can bind the last 2, and when you call passing another thing, this another thing will be the first. So the bound parameters comes after the called parameters. Okay, and I passed the array of parameters. Fine. On dot bind, you will bind the one parameter, that is the last one that is not set. But with the bind v, you are passing an array of parameters following the order. So basically this auto completes the remaining parameters with an array. Okay, that's why the parameters are array, and I use bind v. Then I use call. So this is just a very easy way to call a method from a class, passing whichever parameters is needed. Why I made this? Because imagine like there is a bad enemy. This bat like chill right there, then look at you, charge, hit you, and go away, fly away, for example. On hit, this bat would look for your health system, like the attribute system, and add, for example, a bleeding effect, a vampire effect, or a poison effect, for example. But in the bat script, I would like upon area entered, for example, I check if it's player or if it is something that is hittable, like affected by the enemy. If it is, I would get the root scene, like the one that have the script. Look for the health system, then access the health, the effect system, then end the effect. Or even if I try to remove an effect and so on, whatever I want to do with it, like with a effect, I have to go like this: health, then effect system, a manager, then the list, then the effect, and then something. So in order to shorten how much I have to type, I created this. Okay, it's just because of this. Then I created this method add burning. This basically is a very easy way to add the burning effect, and I actually did both things that I suggested. I have in the end of the file an static function that return status effect, but I also added natively, not statically, the possibility to add effect right ongoing. Okay, so here on add burning, I as parameter the orange, the onUpdate callable, the activate function, use active function, tick timer 0.5, tick timer list 0.5, remaining timers, stacks 1, max stacks, all the callables that would be used for notifications, the target, and the passive. As you can see, I added for optionals value that is not callable, I set equals to null, and if they are callables, I assign it callable parentheses. This because callables such as other classes, I think, such as color and another that I don't know, they cannot be like null, like they cannot be assigned null value. So the only way that you are able to create, in quotes, the null version of these classes is basically like this, the class parentheses. So in this case, it's basically saying the method before applying, for example, is a callable empty or null. Okay. Then here I create an effect of I instantiate an effect, set the name burning, burn, the formatted name that is the UI1 burning, the description passive damage effect, orange self, active true, running out false, and the other things comes from the parameters, okay, as you can see. And I also check if the active function and other callables are set. If they are, I connect. And in the end, I add the effect to the effect manager. Okay, so basically this method add burning to itself, like you set yourself on fire. Okay, I also made this another for slow. Okay, so this is the same idea, same parameters, but different name, like slow decrease movement speed, but it's the same thing. And add the effect pass the effect and if it is passive or not. So this method, it's basically set yourself, like casting yourself a slow effect, okay? And as I said, I created a static function create effect that now have every single parameter. So there is the name, the formatted name, and the description parameter, okay? As you can see, every single one create the effect, and now this is typed as status effect. The others one are void, as you can see in the end it's void. Here in the end is void as well, but this one is status effect, and in the end I return the effect I just created. Okay, very simple. Now in the attribute manager, so as I said, I created the calling attribute. So I check if the attribute list has this attribute. I check if the attribute class have the set method. If there is, I create a callable variable using callable.create, pass the class, pass the method name, bind the parameters, and then call. Okay. Here in the attributes, I added a lot of native I added a lot of preset attributes. So here I created for health. So as you can see, here are the parameters: base value, max base, mean base, max value, mean value, on heal, that is the on increase, on deal damage, that is the on decrease, on replace, on reach max base, on reach mean base, on get full HP, that is on reach the max value, on die, that is on reach the minimum value, on update, and on notify. As you can see, the same idea. The others had the callable parentheses, but these create one, but it doesn't matter because it's not used. Okay. And here follow the same idea. I create an attribute called HP, instantiate a status attribute, sets the name HP, formatted name health, the description health points, upon reach that the player dies, actually. Orange itself, the active is equals to true, sets the values coming from the parameters, so base value, mean max base, mean base, mean value, max value. I check if the callables are set, and then I connect to the set signal, and then I add attribute to the list. Okay, I use the method that I showed in the other video, adding and removing the attribute as I want. In this case, I'm just adding the attribute, and I did this for some attributes such as attack. So as you can see, attack physical damage, the magic, so magic power, and mana points used to use a skill. And I also created add move speed. Okay, so here move speed, movement speed, how fast the entity moves, very simple. And then the static function that creates the attribute statically. Okay, why this static version might be useful? In my head, two main scenarios: sandbox and debugging. Imagine you create you're testing a certain enemy, for example, and you want to create a certain attribute to test. So you create like this attribute and you reserve this attribute. So whenever you spawn this enemy, you attach this new script, a copy of this new attribute, into this new spawned enemy. Okay. Here on the health system, I changed from physics process from process to physics process. Okay, I also now loop the attribute list. So the same idea of the effects, I loop for key in attribute list, accessing the attribute list in the set key, update passing delta. I also created the call in attribute and call in effect. So now I can write even less, okay? This is just up to you. Like as I said, I will, since I don't know where, depending the game, where the system would go, that's why I kept separated the effect system from the attribute system. But they actually the manager, but they could be under the same file. For example, that add the attribute, remove attribute, add health, and so on, and for its effects as well, could be in this class, okay? But since I don't know how crazy I can go, how like specific I can go in certain games, I separated in this way, okay? Now let's go to the field test. Let me just show you something here. I added a VBox container that in this case would follow the parent node, okay? In this VBox I will list two attributes that I will use in this test, that is health and move speed. But I also added a canvas layer node and control nodes for this. So this control node check where the player can touch in order to move, and this other control holding buttons. These buttons is the one that I will use to apply the effects, okay? So I have one to heal 20, to deal 20 of damage, to replace the current health to 300, to one that add the effect of burning, and the one that slow down or basically add the slow effect, okay? And I also added two particles to the one to heal, that is green, and another one that is damage or negative effect, that is red, okay? I just try to like show a bit more how can you use it, okay? So back to the code. This health I already showed you. Means I created two already variables for the particles, okay? And then I created a base label. I instantiate a base label, setting the custom minimal size to 125, and then I duplicated for the movie speed, okay? So the movie speed is equal to base label dot duplicate. The default flag is 15, so it's in theory the deepest I can reach. Then I add this label to the VBox container, and then I go like this: health.attributes.add movie speed. Okay, so I'm adding the movie speed. The base value is 200, but the current value, like the value, is 400. Okay, I already set this for you, but the idea is like the base value is the one that would be natural to the original from the entity, and you can do whatever you want with this, like use for skills and so on. The other value is the one that you would change more often and use for other things, okay? Then the rest of the parameters is basically null or callable, okay? The main value is 0, and in the end, the last one, not the last one from the parameters, but the one that I added, is a function passing that have as parameter x, that is the status attribute, and I set the movie speed label dot text equals to, between quotes, curly brackets, braces, x colon curly y dot format, passing the formatted name, so it's the uy1, and next dot get final value. This one, guys, is, let me show you. This one is the on update, okay? So in theory, this one will be called every single time. So I am sure that the movie speed above this entity head would be shown correctly. Okay. Then I duplicated for the health, as you can see, the base level dot duplicate. I added to the VBox container, and then I started setting. So the base and the value are 100. No min and max base value, and also not max value for the HP. But the minimum value of HP is 0. Then I start adding the callable. So the first one is on increase. So I basically update the label. Then I set the GPU particles to emitting equals to true. I print healed. The next one is on decrease. I did the same thing, but now I emit the damaged particle and print damaged. The replace one is in theory healing, so I use the healing particles and I call replace. Then on this full ignore, because I didn't set a max value, so it won't be called anyway. I created the function for the reach minimum value to print die and close the application, just so we can feel the if things happening. And the last one that I added, remember there is more parameters in here. I did it for the updates. So now the label for health will be updated every single time as well. Okay. I also added a magic attribute. So like you can see that this is the shortest amount of parameters I can use. Okay. And then as the child, you already know this. I don't need this commented part anymore. Now let's go to other parts. So here I have the end burning effect, and I use the end burning method that I showed you. So I passed the orange as self because it's up to you which orange you want to do, whatever you want. Then the update, the use function update, use the function update, use function update, the tick timer and the tick timer limit. So this basically says that my burning timer will start in 0.5, and in the second 0.5 is basically whenever I reach 0, I should reset to which time? 0.5. Okay. You can start in 0 to apply the burning instantly, for example, and have another different reset value. Okay. Then the remaining timer. So how long they should last? No, but I added the remaining time is 3. So basically, this burning will tick three times, and then go away. This is the idea. This text is 1, so whatever, and whatever. Here is on apply. So as you can see, I emit the damaged particle equals to true, and I call the method call in attribute. So I access the HP, call the method decrease, and I pass the value from the magic attribute, that is 50, remember, times 0.2. So 50 times 0.2 is the same thing as 5 times 2, that is 10. So in theory, my burning that is based in my magic should be 10. Okay. Then callable, then on run out. So on run out, I remove the effect itself. Okay, so I access X that pass the status effect, access the target, I access the effects of the target, and I remove the burn itself. Then callable, whatever. The health is the orange. So as you can see, if I show you here, the target, that is itself. So in theory, I'm just catching fire and setting as passive. Okay. I want you understand just one thing. Remember that the stacks possibility are many. You might stack the value, okay? So for example, if something is burning 5 of damage, for example, and you cast another burning, what happened? The damage can stack, so from 5 to 10. The ticker timer can decrease, so it will burn damage even faster. It might last long, so the timer would be actually incremented. The amount of stacks, that is how many times the tick should be triggered, can be increased, or you can add another burning on the queue. Let me put it this way. So when a burning ends, another one takes the order, like the next position, or not stack and actually replace. The way that I made here, it's just replacing. Okay, so for example, if I set something on fire, tick 1, tick 2, and I set fire again, so the old fire, the old burning would be replaced. So we would take 1, 2, 3 times more and then go away. That is my 3 ticks burning. So my current way of dealing with effects of the same name is replacing. Okay, if you want to not and actually deal with two burning at the same time, you just have to name it with random numbers, for example. Okay, ensuring that they are different. I also created a function add slow effect. The same idea of the add burning, but this time is a little bit different. So here I added the starting tick time to 0.5. Okay, so I cast a spell, and after 0.1 second, the effect will start being applied. The reset timer is 5, and the remaining timer, or how long it should last, is 5 as well. What this basically say? The tick time limit, that is the one where the time should reset, is 5, but the effect is 5 again, because I do not need to apply the effect multiple times. There is no reason for a slow, for a freeze, for a root or a stun or whatever is the control effect, for example, being applied multiple times. I do something, I apply this once, and the affected entity will be like this, unless I want to have more ticks. Okay, if I want to explicitly have this having more ticks, like applying, triggering the effect more than once. But if I don't, like it's a slow, and upon this slow goes away, nothing happened, it won't be needed to reapply the effect. So that's it. Okay. So the opposite of the burning, the remaining times or how many ticks it have is null, because I'm using the timer. You can use both, remember, like if you have a buff that the next 3 attacks do something, and the skill being activated for 10 seconds, so within 10 seconds the player can use these 3 attacks. If done, Eva will run out of time, just like this. One stack, no callable, and on apply. Here, on apply, I emit the particle of damage, like just analyze it's something bad. And instead of it, I decrease or increase or replace this slow, I use my modifier array. Okay, so I set the attribute move speed. The method name is add value modifier, and I pass the array of parameters. And what is the parameters for add value modifier? The key, the orange or the value, the formula, and the description. So here I have the slow 50, the amount is 0.5, so in theory this value won't change, it won't scale with anything. The formula is the initial value times slow 50, okay? So what is the initial value? 400. This is my movie speed. And what is the slow 50? 0.5, okay? And the description is just of like we understand what is happening. Temporary slow of 50, okay? And callable and then on runout. So upon runout of time, I call an attribute move speed, remove the modifier slow 50. So basically my like my burning effect call decrease function to decrease the HP and would be called every 0.5 seconds. But my slow, I am adding the multiplier for the final value, and on the end I remove this modifier, okay? This guy is just as an example on how flexible this is and how like it's up to your imagination. You have something that is passive, like that is over time. Use the decrease, the idea made in the burning. If it is something that is hit once and then don't need to reapply, use this way, okay? So instead of changing the final value, I'm modifying the multiplier. This is way better. Then I do not need to have a dedicated variable to go back to the original value. That might be changed because if I, for example, if I have a curse like an effect that sets the movie speed to 0, it's like a root stun. Then my movie speed is 0. Then I cast a slow effect. There is 0, for example. Then upon the stun goes away, my slow have as reference 0, so you would go back to 0. Okay, so this can basically solve this possible problem. And then I pass the health and true as passive. Okay. Okay, to move the player around, I created a target position variant equals to new, and I added the same thing that I added to other projects. Move input, that is a left mouse button here on Android on smartphone is on touch the screen inside of the game, okay? So I use this control, okay, because it have this area of effect. So if I touch in the buttons area, it won't be triggered, like it won't be affected. And I set the target position equals to where I touched, okay, get global mouse position. Then on physics process, I check if target position is different from null. If it is, I create a variable called dir that is equals to the difference between the target position less global position dot normalized. I already explained this. This is the way that you can get the direction you want. The first one is the target or the final position less the current position dot normalized. So you have a vector 2 that goes from -0 on both axes to +1 in both axes. Okay. Then I set the velocity equals to dir times health dot attribute list move speed get final value. So this basically gets the 400 or whatever the final number it is. Then I check if my global position dot distance to the target position is less or equals to 10. If it is, I reset the target position to null and I set the velocity to vector 2.0. So if you have a problem, mainly on those that you click, the entity goes and kind of flicks in a same position, it's because you are not resetting the velocity. You are like constantly checking the target position and it's there, like it's a floating point. Okay, that's why it kind of flicks, because never is exactly. So you want to use this distance to and even another number depending the speed you want. Okay, and I call movie slide. I have here 5 buttons signals, that is these buttons. Okay, so the first one I call the increase 20 to heal. Here, the second to decrease 20 to deal 20 of damage. The other to replace my health to 300. And these last two is to apply the burning effect and the slow effect. Okay, so now let me show you how it's working. So here is the entity. As you can see, the move speed is 400 and my health is 100. So open, I heal 20. These particles is emitted and now my health is 20. Open, deal 20 of damage. This kind of blood I tried to replicate, but I didn't even invest too much time. That's why it's so strange. Okay, I have the replace that just sets my health to 300, like this. Okay, now let me. Then the bottom burning 10 because I know the magic key that is 50 times 0.2. So burning 10 3 times. So this burning will just basically be triggered at 3 because it's once open. It's 1 every 0.5 seconds. So here, burn. Okay, 70. And this slow, as you can see, I'm moving this speed. Let me go to here. Then look, slow. My move speed is to 200, then 400. Okay, so as you can see, my slow is working. I'm moving slower. Then when they goes away, I go back. I could, for example, have a visual effects and sound effects as well. For the applying burn, like that bonfire sound effect. For this low, I could use a spider sound or a web sound for something like this to heal that refreshing sound for the damage. I don't know if Steven get hit from Minecraft and so on. So as you can see, everything is working. The idea of burning can be applied to bleeding, to poison, or whatever the over time and damage you have. For the slow effect as well, that is a control effect for stuns, for rootings, or whatever type of effects you have. So as you can see, it's like very simple, and I think this plus the state machine that I showed you, you can make whatever the game you want. You can make whatever game you want. The last thing you might want to have is a loading and saving and loading system. That I already showed you how to make files. So most part of the tutorials here on YouTube use the idea of create a JSON file. That most part of the case can be very useful for you if you are making a game a little bit more complex, a little bit more larger, like bigger. You might want to save on resources. Okay, you might want to use the resource loader and resource saver. Have a bunch of data you might want to have, and upon loading the game, read this file, loop in every single attribute, setting up these states. Okay, but like this saving and loading part, I think it's a way less complicated part than this attribute system. Okay, and as you notice, I didn't use any state machine in this game, so this is very independent from other scripts. Okay, so guys, that's it. I hope you enjoyed and found this useful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.